What's up, guys? Emily here with Emlovz. Today, we're going to be talking about the virtual date blueprint. This is something that I have taught my clients ever since COVID hit, and now I'm making it available to you. So if you're still uncomfortable going out in the world and dating in person, there are still options for you. And we're going to talk about over 20 different virtual date ideas that you can use to continue making the connections that you're looking to make and really getting to know women. And it might even help to disqualify or qualify a woman to decide whether you're going to go on a second date with her. So without further ado, let's dive in. All right, let's talk about the virtual date blueprint. So here's the agenda. We're going to talk about the goal of a first date, how to create an attractive appearance for virtual dates, tell my story, a virtual date idea that is epic. I'm also going to give you over 20 virtual date ideas that you can use, and we're going to talk about ending the virtual date. So first thing to know is the goal of a first date is something very simple. You just want to establish trust and rapport. All right, so how to create an attractive appearance for virtual dates. So have good lighting. Natural light is great if you can, but if not, you can get a clip-on light on Amazon. It doesn't really matter what kind it is. It can be a $20, little cheapy light. You want to make sure you don't have weird colored lighting. So if you have hue, that's great, but it's not going to be good for your Zoom. Make sure your full face is in the camera and your head isn't cut off. So if your camera's like this, that's creepy, man. You got to make sure your head is right in the photo, okay? Just look at the little camera, look at like the icon, make sure you don't have half of your face in the camera. That's creepy. She's going to think it's creepy. Make sure your background looks nice, okay? Plants and artwork is always nice. Plants show a woman you can keep things alive. We like that because that means you will not probably kill us, and that's always what we're thinking. Okay, art on the wall. We love to see art on the wall. Makes us feel like you have some culture. We also want to make sure your place is clean, so don't have a bunch of stuff all flinging everywhere. We don't want that. If you have furniture in the background, make sure that looks comfortable. No blow up furniture, please. Plants, like I said, super important. If you're using Zoom, you can touch up your appearance. It is magical, you guys. It takes off like 5 to 10 years, I tell you what. So that's in your preferences setting. You can touch up your appearance. It's so much fun. Okay. Make sure that you wear a top that fits your body really well. I am a big fan of Henleys. I actually am wearing a Henley right now. They have man Henleys that are not like this low cut, but a shirt kind of like this shows off your shoulders, make you look hot, and maybe has like 3 buttons down the top. That's a great fit, great top to wear. Make sure that it fits your body well. So look for the seam right here. It should be right on the edge of your arm. If the seam is down here, that shirt is too big for you, okay? So I'm recommending a Henley. Also, man necklace. I can't tell you why, but I think it's sexy, and I think a lot of women do too. So if you're keen on wearing man necklaces, that's a sexy thing to do, and I recommend it. Grooming. Make sure your hair and skin looks good, you guys. Don't just roll out of bed, have your hair sticking up. You want to make sure you look fresh, okay? If your teeth are not white, try brushing with baking soda. It's going to make them super white, and you don't even have to go buy expensive teeth whiteners. Make sure your nails are short and clean. She could probably see it if you're moving around. So if you have creepy long nails, that's kind of weird. Make sure they're short and clean. Also, have water on hand, right? Because if you get parched and then it's awkward, you have to go get water. That could break up the mood, the energy. And when we get nervous, we kind of get, like dry mouth. Make sure you have a comfortable seat. If you're uncomfortable, it's gonna come across in the date. You're not gonna be your charismatic self, right? Also, I don't recommend using a virtual background because half the time it's cropping out your hair and things are coming in and out of view. It's really distracting, and sometimes it does an unflattering cut off the hair. So I wouldn't do a virtual background. Also, make sure to test your equipment beforehand to avoid any audio or visual issues. If you're going to do a Zoom date and you've never used Zoom in your life, do a test run with a friend. Make sure that you know how everything works, because the last thing you want to do is have your first impression be super awkward. Also, your name should be appropriate for the call. So if it's like Johnny Dogood 6969, that is not okay. Okay, we want to know your real name. And if you have given her one name and your Zoom name is something different, that's also very creepy. So quit that. Make sure your name's appropriate. All right, so we've covered some of what you're going to need to know for your virtual date, and we've got a lot more where that came from. But if you are liking this video, make sure to like it, subscribe to the channel, and leave us a comment in the comments below. I want to hear from you if you have more virtual date ideas. Okay, let's take a look at a virtual date idea. This is my very favorite virtual date idea. Tell my story. And I'm going to show you first.
I feel like I'm like blushing. I'm like, what in the world?
That's so crazy.
You should buy a lottery ticket.
The type of person I am looking to date is someone that can hang out with my friends, hang out with my family, and hold their own. Someone who likes to laugh. No pity laughs though. Absolutely no pity laughs.
Dating other actors is like having a child because they're so intense and they're so dramatic. And I like to think that I'm not quite that way. So it's tough when I meet one who is.
What I'm gonna do is show you photos of the person that you're gonna go on a date with, okay? This is your person.
An actor.
What's your first impression?
It looks like a fake smile.
Yeah, for sure an actor.
Key picture.
Would you date him?
Your name is Alex, and this is your story. You are 27 years old. For work, you are an actor, bartender. You grew up in Florida. Your height is 5'9". For COVID isolation, you are with your family at your parents' house.
My name is Jonathan, and this is my story. I am 26 years old. For work, I am an actor. I grew up in Newport Richey, Florida. My height is 5'8.5". And for COVID isolation, I am with my mom at her home in Florida.
I crushed it.
You really did. Your name is Jillian, and this is your story. You are 24 years old. For work, you are an actress. You grew up in Boston, Massachusetts. Your height is 5'4". And for COVID isolation, you are with roommates at your apartment.
How in the world did you get my right name? You guessed my name?
Swear to God.
You said Jillian?
Are you for real?
In what world did you just guess my name? I don't even think it's that common of a name. That's so wild.
Neither. I thought of a friend I had, and I was like, that's a good name.
I feel like I'm like blushing. I'm like, what in the world?
That's so crazy.
You should buy a lottery ticket. So, yep, my name is Jillian, and this is my story. I am...
Like, how much fun is this? Instead of like asking questions that are kind of boring, you're making assumptions, which makes it so much more fun. And you can even play little games like just say ridiculous answers just to get her to laugh.
26 years old. For work, I am an actor / I work at a hotel. I grew up in Rochester, Michigan, and my height is 5'2". I know you were off a little bit, sorry. And but I appreciate that you thought I was taller. For COVID,
Okay, so that's just to give you an idea. I'm gonna link this video below this one that we're doing now, so you can watch the whole thing. There's a whole bunch of them. It's such a cool idea, but you can use this yourself. And if you're interested in more support in my coaching program, I've actually created a template specific to this experience. So you can actually use my template because some of those questions may not be relevant since it's not a totally blind date. You might already know things about them. But if you're interested in that, check out my coaching program over at emlovz.com. All right, so I actually have over 20 more virtual date ideas in the workbook that I give my students. I'm gonna walk you through this But if you're interested in this workbook, you have to be a student to get it. And there is a bunch of juicy stuff in there. We're just going to talk about the virtual dates stuff. But so you could do Cards Against Humanity. And when you think of these virtual date ideas and you pitch them, you want to pitch them so they sound super compelling. So one thing I have my students do is really write out the value add of that activity and what makes it super epic and why. And that's going to go into your date pitch. I'm not going to go into all of this detail. If you want to pause this video, you can write these things down if one of these speaks to you. There's also links in my workbook, which is only available to my students, that talks more about these things, but just giving you a little scratching the surface, if you will. So Cards Against Humanity can be played virtually. This way you're not just inviting her to like jump on a Zoom call and she has Zoom fatigue because everything feels like an interview. You can make it more fun. You can also play Jackbox games with friends. You could join a quarantine book club together, or you could pitch the idea as though you both are going to be doing a book club together. And you can make a spin-off of some of these ideas. So instead of a book club, it might be like trivia off of a book that you both read and see if who's going to win. Netflix Party app is another way to do a date idea where you'd watch the same thing at the same time and then you could pause and talk about it. So maybe you're watching like a stand-up comedian or something that's kind of short and sweet. You could do a happy hour, a Zoom happy hour, where you both grab a glass of wine and join each other. You could do a Zoom coffee date where you both are grabbing coffee, whether it's at your house or somewhere else, but it's on Zoom. You could take a virtual cooking class. That would be pretty epic. You could create and play your own board game. You could do a poker tournament. You could explore the national parks from your couch. This is so cool. And actually, if you're in my program, you have access to this workbook and there's a link that kind of walks you through it. So cool. You could do something called social listening, which is something where you both listen to music at the same time. There's a bunch of online games that are listed here that you could play. You could tour the Vatican virtually. How epic is that, you guys? It's so cool. You got to check it out. You could also tour zoos, museums, and theme parks virtually. So that is definitely going to be more compelling than sitting, across from each other having an interview. You have an outward focus, which is great. Sofa King Fest is a virtual concert series where you can watch quarantined and sheltering in place artists perform. You could catch a show at the Met virtually. Super cool. You could also catch a Broadway show virtually. How epic is that? You could do a wine and paint night virtually. You could take an online class together. You could host a virtual double date with another couple. That would be interesting. You could even take an online dance lesson. You could try a workout class together online. You could also do games like Words with Friends or virtual bingo. You can travel to additional places, virtual traveling. So you could take a trip to Japan or Northern Ireland or go hike the Great Wall of China virtually. You could play GeoGuessr. This is something that it's like a game that you play, but a lot of my students have played this and it can be quite fun. You could do a city guide virtual tour of San Francisco. Again, the Tell My Story. Waffles and Pancakes is a virtual game that you can play, or you can watch original theater online. So there's so many virtual date ideas that you can take part in, guys. Don't use it as an excuse just because maybe you're uncomfortable with COVID or whatever the reason is. You can still make your virtual dates really compelling, even though it's virtual. Cool. So a couple just quick tidbits. Your first dates should be short and sweet. They should never go over an hour. Why? Well, because mystery breeds interest, and a lack of mystery really leads to the friend zone. This is specifically for your first date. So if you're doing a second or a third date virtually, then doing something like watching a Broadway show makes more sense. So a lack of mystery leads to the friend zone, and spending more than an hour on the first date means that you're talking too much and your mystery is rapidly depleting. So after 60 minutes, you need to close for the second date and end the date. You should close for the second date on the first date. It's very important because she is more likely to say yes if you ask her while you're in front of her. It is not as powerful to ask for the second date via text message, and too much texting before the first and second date leads to the conversation fizzling out. So if you can avoid texting at all, you'll be better off because it will maintain your mystery and escalate sexual tension. Use something that she says she's passionate about during the first date as a compelling TDL or date invitation for a second date. All right, last thing we're going to talk about is ending the date. So ending the date virtually. This is very important. You want to make sure to wrap up the conversation. So you might say something like, well, I hate to wrap this up so soon, but I've got to run to class or a meeting. And if you've done this right, then you primed her on the fact that you would need to end the call at this time already. So maybe in the beginning of the date, you said, hey, just want to make sure I'm not too abrupt. I have to run at 7 because I've got this online meeting that I have to join, or I've got this online class, or I have to make this phone call. That way you're managing her expectations and she knows that the date's not going to go on and on. You also want to close for the second date if you haven't already and say something like, it was great chatting with you, and have a good rest of your night to wrap it up, right? Sometimes we're out of practice on how to end things. So make sure you say something, it was great chatting with you, have a great rest of your night. Okay. Make sure to smile and end the call. Okay. Don't end the call abruptly without saying goodbye or smiling or acknowledging her. That wraps up this video. If you liked this video, make sure to like it, subscribe to the channel, leave us a comment in the comments below, and follow us on social media. And if you're looking for more dating help in your journey, check out my free masterclass, which is linked in the description below this video. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll catch you next time.